ever. In addition to broadcasting live through our Zoom channel, we're also now being seen on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube live. And I'm very happy to announce that soon we're going to be on hundreds of thousands of tablets inside of jails and prisons. And millions of our brothers and sisters who are doing time currently will be coming added to our community. So we're really excited about that, looking forward to it. The Yard is a production of Commissary Club, which is the first social network for 70 million Americans who have a criminal record. My name is Richard Bronson. I am the founder and CEO of Commissary Club, as well as 70 Million Jobs, which is the national employment platform for folks with records. Tonight, I am joined by my dear friend and teammate at Commissary Club and rapper to the stars, Divine. Hey, D, how are you tonight?
Peace, brother. Great to be here. Once again, it's on.
It's on. And of course, we are, as always, assisted by the incredible, wonderful Adrian Hatter, who is sort of running things behind the scenes and for which we are forever grateful. Hi, Adrian. Before we get started, just a couple of housekeeping items, and then I'll introduce our two great guests in a second. On the Yard, like Commissary Club, our goal essentially is to connect people, to connect them so that they may be available to help one another, to serve as role models perhaps, or even inspire others. We are desperately interested in showing people that people with records are not simply a rap sheet. Interested in showing people that people with
What's going on there?
Are not simply a rap sheet. Interested in showing. Okay, sorry about that. This is the way it is with live entertainment, you know, in a corona virus sort of world. But let me continue before I interrupted myself. We want to connect people is the bottom line. And, you know, there's precious little of that goes on within this community. And we think that that's a shame. We also are eager to share the experience, albeit from afar, as much as possible, what it is like to go through the whole incarceration experience. We think that if folks who've never been incarcerated had a greater insight, probably things would improve and the world would be a more equitable place. So our goal is to take you out into this sort of safe, simulated yard, a place where in any jail or prison, it's a way to connect with your friends. It's a way to yell and argue and get fresh air and, you know, sometimes share some sadness. On the Yard, crying is something you want to avoid doing. It shows weakness, and weakness in prison can be dangerous. But among your friends, you know, it may be the only opportunity you have to be like that. We're going to open this up to questions. You can certainly type a question or a comment using the chat feature on the bottom of the page. You guys know what that's all about. As always, I ask you to please stay on topic. And what we do here on the Yard, which is different than most other podcasts that relate to criminal justice, you know, we're not talking about what got people into prison. And we're not talking about what they did since they've been out of prison. Rather, we're focused on the actual experience of being in prison. From the moment you take that first step into that prison yard and to the moment you take that last step when you leave. I just know from my personal experience that going through that was just something I could just never, ever imagine. And as much as I try to describe it to people, I still come up short. So we have great people in here who can tell their story and what they experienced. If you have something to say, or you want to actually join the conversation, on Clubhouse, where we've been a number of times, where we had, huge crowds, you raise your hand if you want to speak. But in this case, very simply send a message to Adrienne on the chat and let her know what you're thinking or what you'd like to talk about, or, the question you have or whatever else. And, we'll get in a couple of people, as we get into this. Now, we do this every single time. I don't know if this is like our 19th or 20th episode of The Yard. And when I had the idea of doing it initially, I thought everybody was going to, tell me to stop doing it, frankly. But just the opposite occurred. So I'm going to once again dive in the deep section here on this. I'm going to ask everybody here, all our guests, everybody who's watching on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, and you, Divine, and our two guests who have joined us tonight, is number one, please just everybody take a deep breath. And it's been a long day. Just take a deep breath and let the air out slowly and just relax a minute. Next thing I'm going to ask you to do after you've taken this deep breath and let it out is please just close your eyes. Close your eyes and just sort of let your mind wander for a moment, get some oxygen into your brain. And, I just want to start sort of setting the scene here. As someone who can speak from direct experience, when problems arise, including legal problems, sometimes they enter into your life or my life quickly and in a devastating manner, almost like a tsunami. And other times they take longer to unfold. And it's almost surreal how you can watch things develop as your life is being derailed, your carefully planned life. So as an example, I think all of us know that many states have decriminalized marijuana. But believe it or not, there are still places in this country that have incredibly strict laws against marijuana and possession. And I was surprised Florida happens to be one of them. I used to live there. Florida, if you get caught with an ounce of pot, you'd be facing 5 years in a Florida jail. And I did time in a Florida jail. And I just, please take it from me, Florida jails are no place that you want to visit. It's not like going to South Beach. So 5 years for a simple possession of marijuana is what you could be facing. Now, keep your eyes closed. Let's imagine, you decided you were going to hook up with some friends. You were going to take a trip to Miami Beach. You're going to go to South Beach. Great weather, beautiful beaches, great clubs. You're not some crazy college kid. You're not a troublemaker out on the streets, going nuts. You went out to a nice restaurant. You had a great meal, maybe ate some stone crabs, which Miami is famous for. You had a good bottle of wine. And you're walking outside, you had bought an ounce of pot through a friend of a friend, and you're strolling down Ocean Drive and you're smoking a joint, minding your own business with your friends, just relaxing. Nobody's paying attention, except one person is paying attention. And the person who's paying attention is a Miami Beach cop. And it just so happens that earlier this day, this cop's boss, the lieutenant, he got all his, officers together before they hit the streets, and he sent down the word. Probably, somebody yelled at him for this. Too many people are smoking pot on the streets of Miami Beach. So this cop sees you smoking a joint. He grabs you and he pulls you over to his car, and you're got your hands on the roof with your legs spread out. and he empties your pockets, and he discovers that your ounce of weed that you have in your pocket. And you're going to remember this moment for the rest of your life, with your hands on the top of his squad car, with your legs spread apart as he's patting you down, because this is the moment in your life when things went seriously south. This is the moment in your life when your life changed forever for the worse. And it all started because you were smoking a joint. Big deal. So now let's fast forward a couple of years later, and you just sort of realize you're waking up from your sleep, and you notice as you're waking up, as you're sort of gaining consciousness, you're lying in a cot. And in front of you, if you look up, there are bars on the door. And you turn to the left, and your head, where you've been sleeping, 6 inches away, is a stainless steel toilet, which is attached to your sink. That's what you've been sleeping against. And on the other side of you, you notice that you become aware that there's another person in this small little cell that you're in. This person's also waking up, except this person's waking up and this person is coughing and wheezing for air. And it doesn't sound good. And you realize you've been breathing the same air as somebody who maybe has contracted the coronavirus. And it all comes back to you that you're in prison. You were there for 2 years, and you got another 3 years coming. And it all comes back to you in a terrible flood. Prison is this terrible place. The food is terrible. There's no privacy. The guards have been treating you like an animal. That's what you've been going through as you're waking up. Except once a day, there's a reprieve. Once a day, they let you out of your cell. Once a day, they let you go out onto the yard. That's outside, a big, flat, empty space. And on the yard, you can, if you'd like, toss around a football, go to the weight pile to work out. Or what you normally do, you find where your friends are and you connect with them. And you're going to be with these people, your friends, like getting together with friends anywhere get together. Except these are very special moments because if for only a couple of minutes, you're not a number, you're not an animal. Once again, you're a human being. And once again, you're laughing and you're smiling and you're remembering a time before your life just sort of spun out of control. So I want to take you all out onto the yard with me. I want you to come out onto the yard because you just came to prison and there's a couple of people I want you to meet. Their names are Vincent Bragg and their names are Joe Nixon. Vincent and Joe. Vincent and Joe, hey guys, how are you today? Nice to have you here.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely. What's up? What's up? What's up?
You remember those days out on the yard?
I remember my first yard experience.
What happened to you on your first yard experience?
I think it's like if I back up, it's like, so I had to travel, Con Air is a real thing in the feds, right? So,
yep.
I had to come from Ohio all the way, back to California. So I just remember like pulling up to this like old building and it just was scary as shit, right? It was just like hella scary. And so when we pull up, we get inside the little gate, this guy gets on the bus and he makes an announcement. He's like, yo, listen up. When you get off the bus, you're going to see your people. Get with your people. But if you fucked up, get in this line. And so you shackled to dudes on this bus. And I'm like, well, first off, what does he mean? Like if you fucked up, right? And so that became a thing. Like he really meant like if you snitched on somebody, if you was in here for like some pedophilia or something, it's a whole separate line for you if you want this bid to go easy.
Wow. Wow.
And so I'm watching dudes that we've been having conversations with the whole time, like go get in that line. So that's the first thing. Now I'm spooked. Like, okay, what what is in store for me? So boom, we get in there, we go through the whole process and we get our mats, we go to our units, and then now it's time to get with your people. So everybody like, you know, where you from? Like, you know, that sort of thing. Oh, you need to be over there with him. So you go talk to the guy. He like, you know, telling you the thing, like you got X amount of days, you got to present your paperwork, and like literally presented me with 2 knives. One was like a sword that he like, yo, this stay on the unit. And the other was plastic, so you could get through the metal detectors.
Jesus.
And so I'm like, yo, like,
Where did I come to?
yeah, I don't want to hurt nobody. Like, I'm just here to do my bid. Like, I'm a non-violent drug offender. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't come for the violence, right? And so they like, all right, come to the yard. So I'm kind of spooked, but of course, like, you know, I'm going to the yard. I get to the yard, and that shit was like a flea market. These dudes over here selling tobacco. These dudes got a table set up with shoes. These cats selling ice cream. Like, I'm like, this is from what I just experienced to this, they not the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
That's
These are not
amazing.
the same experiences. And so, yeah, to me, it was like a sign of relief. You know what I mean? Now I could like really think about, you know, how I wanted to do the rest of this time, because I came in with this expectation of violence and, you know, all of this other kind of stuff. But then like to see like dudes was just trying to get through their time. They was hustling, like I said, selling ice. These dudes was making ices, like ices.
You know, so I, you know, forgive me. I would, in my eagerness to introduce you both, normally I would give a little background as to who you guys are. So let me, if I may, because your stories are so great. Vincent and Joe are very good friends, and they have a company that they've co-founded that we'll talk about in a little bit. They met each other in prison, and I guess they discovered, you know, that they were sort of like kindred spirits. Vincent was there to do a 5-year bit for drug dealing, as he mentioned. Joe, on the other hand, and this sort of blows my mind, Joe, you had a 20-year sentence for, is this possible, robbing 27 banks?
Yes.
Can you do that?
Well, in hindsight, I look at it like, oh my goodness, what was I possibly thinking? And more so, yes, I actually went to trial for them. There's something in the federal system called the Jesse James Act, and it's like basically once they charge and convict you with more than 6 bank robberies, especially armed takeover bank robberies, you're not getting out anyway. So it's just over with. So basically, like, I was a legend because I'm like, okay, I get it, but you didn't catch me doing any of that. And you're telling me that you have some people that you caught doing unrelated things, and they said that I did. Oh, line them up. Let's go.
All right, but did you do 27 bank robberies?
I still have appeal issues. I don't know. I have appeal issues going on. I maintain my innocence, but the one that I was convicted of, that the jury of the United States, the jury of my peers convicted me of, I did those. Okay. Everything in my indictment that I was charged and convicted with, I participated in those.
Yeah, when I went to prison, I was the only person who was guilty. Every other, oh no, I didn't.
Everybody's innocent.
1,200 people, innocent people that they rounded up, and me. Mm-hmm. So in any event, you guys met each other in prison, and you know, there's a saying in prison. If I heard it once, I heard it a million times. You do the time, don't let the prison do the time for you. In other words, take control of the time that you're down and get as much out of it as possible. Vincent, I just read about your time in prison. It's pretty amazing. You created a book club. You built a think tank. I'd like to hear about that, because I think that probably has a lot to do with your business now. You organized a cancer walk for charity.
Oh, goodness, I'm not even going to get into that.
Tell me about this cancer walk. Where did you walk?
We almost went to the hole.
Wait, I forgot about that case.
You went to the hole for cancer?
Listen, we went to the hole for creating a program. Like we had all the departments fighting over. They didn't think we was gonna get the budget. We had psychology fighting over the budget. The reentry department,
recreation,
education, all four of these departments fighting over this budget. They like y'all niggas going to the hall. Get y'all ass up out of here.
So what was your goal?
The goal was to provide education on how to start entrepreneur. It was like these five different prongs of like education, financial literacy, like all these other sort of things. And they like, yeah, go ahead, y'all could do it, go ahead. And we actually got a government. We got a grant for like 137,000 or something like that. It was like 132,000, something crazy.
What?
And they all wanted the budget. They wanted the budget, and
But did you do a walk for cancer?
We did do that. That was something totally separate. I'm saying these are.
Were you just like walking around the yard, like
they had people? They had snacks set up, the juice, and we had everybody out there taking pictures. It was lit. It was on.
Was it the IVF fund? What the hell? I mean,
all right. So true or false? Your life was better or worse in prison?
My life was way better outside of prison.
Oh, yeah, mine was way better outside of prison. It's just the simple fact that we didn't have the ideology that everybody else has in there.
Like wait, hold on. What did they have, and what was different than what you had?
Well, what we had is that, okay, although this is a messed up situation, we collectively can think a way for this to be the most comfortable experience ever. Meaning, if every day we know the warden eats, that means that we can eat what the warden eats. So we have to concoct a scheme to get that food. That means these correctional officers are coming here every single day, and they only make $40,000 a year. We have to find the one that's going to help us get what we need.
Right.
We were thinking about it whole differently.
Yeah, we need laptops.
We need everything that we need.
So how could we make this experience more comfortable? And I think that's the way we kind of did our time every single day was, we created a little animated series based on this whole thought process. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to go into it, but to back up a little bit, like Joe's and our story kind of intertwines way before prison. Though. We actually went to the same high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, we didn't know each other like that, but like, we went to a high school that was like full of like the kids of like celebrities, right? Like we ended up, getting bussed or whatever, to the high school. So it was like a fashion show, if you ask me. So to be at this school was what really got us like on that mentality of like, I gotta go get me some money. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta go get me some money because I gotta be fly. I'm trying to holler at, Michael Jackson niece. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do what I got to do. So, that kind of created that need to really hustle and go get it in whatever creative manner.
So tell people, this sort of blew me away when I went to prison. I used to wear expensive suits and, I was conscious of trying to dress nicely and whatever. I worked on Wall Street. I go to prison and, there's no one there I need to impress. Mm-hmm. There's no one, I'm not after anything, and yet I see a lot of guys there are putting so much attention, not just into like working out and being in great shape, that I got, but their clothes. Like I never saw people who they had khaki pants that they pressed every single day.
They're trying to crack the CO.
And sneakers, which I'd never even seen. It's a whole business in prison, guys cleaning sneakers, the whitest sneakers I have ever could imagine sneakers could be. And I'm thinking, who gives a shit? I'm in here with just a bunch of guys, I just want to get out of here. But there were people there, they really cared about their appearance.
Was it women guards in there?
Sorry?
Was it women guards in there?
Very few. Very few.
Were there women that worked in the psychology department?
Did they have like those interns?
He was in the psych department.
Wait. You're telling me that's why they were cleaning their sneakers?
Man, listen, man.
Oh,
That's the
oh.
whole get down. What do you
The psych
mean?
department was a movement, man. You already know.
Yeah.
Come on.
That was the movement.
I worked in the psych department. Like that was the whole play. Like they not even cops. Oh, I'm on
Nah.
they bumper.
They got keys to the prison, but they ain't cops.
I gotta see somebody in psych. Like I'm fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So, and you
That is
best
the-
believe I got the Muslim oil. I got the Somali rose on.
Somali Rose.
Listen, my shoes
Somali Rose.
Listen, my shit sitting under the bunk in
That's
the
my
plastic
classic
bag.
go-to. Come on, man.
Come on, man. I don't got no
Rose,
dust
man.
on my shoes. I only pull these shoes out for the visit, picture day, or if I'm going to the psych and I'm about to
All
crack.
right. True or false? Your sneakers in prison were cleaner than your sneakers on the outside.
Never.
Never?
Yeah.
You have to think about it. Why they pay? The majority of the people pay so much attention to those sneakers,
You
or
gotta
we
stand
are
out.
actually downgrading.
Mhm.
We have 200 and 300 pairs of sneakers on
You
the
see, this is a black-white thing.
Yeah. We have 200 or
100%.
300 pairs of Jordans on the streets.
It's
It's
I have
all-
one pair of sneakers,
Yeah.
and they're dirty. I'm
No,
not too
never
proud to
that.
say that.
Never
Nah,
that.
you pressing
Bill Burr, my favorite comedian, he actually said that is the one thing that he is terrified of is a black guy with dirty tennis shoes. He's like, oh, what the hell's going? Oh, hell no.
I know, the
Hell no. What's
universe
wrong with him?
is suddenly.
What's wrong with him?
Right.
What
We done lost
prison
all hope.
were you guys in? What federal prison?
So
Wait,
I-
Terminal Island?
Yeah, we was in Terminal Island together, which is in San Pedro.
Terminal Island.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yup. I started out at Lompoc Medium. I dropped down to the low. Because they messed up my point. So I was over there for like 9 months. Then they dropped me to the low. And then they had something in there. So you know about RDAP, which is like the drug program.
Of course, I took out that.
Right. They actually invented something called CODAP, which was for more like it was the same kind of drug treatment program, but for people with mental health issues. And so when I did my PSR,
PSI.
I told them I suffer from depression and anxiety. So they ended up, because there wasn't a lot of people joining that program, they was able to go out further in time. Like, okay, you still got 7 years left, but you can still take this program. So they end up shipping me to TI so I could take the CODAP program.
So you got a year off for that?
Nah.
Oh no.
So they're in the federal system, which is the Bureau of Prisons. They have a program called RDAP, Residential Drug something
program.
Yeah,
drug
abuse program.
Drug abuse program. And I too caught a federal case, and my attorney, didn't tell me about this program. So before you go away, you go through this whole thing where they're finding out, you belong to gangs? Are you this, are you that, whatever? Are you suicidal? Because I want to know how to treat you and where to send you. And they go, do you take drugs? And I answered no, thinking that was the right answer. I took drugs. I was addicted to Quaaludes. I did blow all the time, and I drank a lot. And the truth is, I could have benefited from that program in prison, because not only do you get the program, but they let you out like a year early.
And 6 months halfway house.
Yeah, which is awful, but I would have done it. And no one told me, and I thought I was answering. Nobody's honest at all through any of this. I mean, I'm a criminal. I'm not fucking honest. If I was honest, I wouldn't be in that position to begin with.
Yeah.
And so I told them, no, I don't do any drugs. And then I show up there, and I'm finding out they have all these people. They have, people who clearly never did a drug in their life. They're in the program, and me, I could have used it, and I would, nobody really set me straight. There's so much to know before you go in and how to play the system, and a lot of people, it happens so quickly, but, there's better ways to do time, obviously. Right? So Joe, you did you go to trial or
Yeah.
did you cop a plea? You went to trial.
I went to trial, and I on those charges, I was found guilty of initially 1 bank robbery, a conspiracy, and a related firearm charge. And the rest of the banks I got a hung jury on. And that made me like an urban legend. That made me like Mr. King Kong nuts. Like, whoa, because like nobody goes in there. Yeah, so you're in the feds. So like, wait a minute, you had a hung jury? And I'm like, yeah, I did that. You know what I'm saying? But the feds, they're resourceful. And they're like, okay, well, let's run it back. We got let's do this again. Yeah. So the judge, I'll never forget, the judge intervened because I was doing this for maybe 3 years. This was a 3-year process. And the judge intervened, and he had his moment when he was like, man, this guy, he is too smart for his own good. He done fired 30 lawyers. He's been pro bono. I'm tired of it. I would strongly suggest that you guys do not retry this case. We need to come up with some kind of agreement. Now, all I was fighting was that I never refuted that I was guilty. The part that the United States government wants you to do is to say that I did such and such and such and such with said individuals. No, I did this, and this. I don't want to say what such and such did, but they punish you for that. I never said that I was not guilty. I did this, but no, I'm not going to say I did this with John, Dylan, and I know I did what I did. And this is what happened. So I was punished for that. So
yeah, I mean, 98% of federal cases are pled out, and 99% of the cases that go to trial, the government wins. As a result, almost no one ever takes a court case to trial. And if you do, we have guests here tonight who took cases to trial and ended up having, the book thrown at them, where they could have gotten away with a couple of years and they ended up with 20. So
another thing that people don't know, even though they have a 97% conviction rate, they also got an 87% overturn rate if you decide, because even if you take a plea, what people don't realize is you still got a year to file an appeal. Right. Like you could still file an appeal. Yep. So the reason why I only did 5 on the 10 that I was sentenced to was because I got back on the back end. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you get some time back.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back to prison, because that's where we want to be.
Not where we want to be, but yeah.
No, that's where we were. No.
That's where we want the conversation to be.
That's where no one wants to be.
Some shit.
By the way, somebody asked, it's not exactly clear to me who asked it, but they said, so let me ask you this now. We could ask this at the very end, but is talking about your experiences in prison, is this something that's painful? Is it hard? Is it positive? Does it sort of, release, is like a vent for you? Or is it just, a part of your life and neither good nor bad?
I think it's a positive thing. I do a lot of talks, you know what I mean? I've been on, different platforms and talking about this story, and you'd be surprised how many people double back and be like, I spoke at USC before, you know what I mean? Marshall, and they're like, a couple people double back like, this, I'm in school now. I just got out of prison, and not really wanting people to know. And so a lot of times when we're able to kind of tell our story and our experience, it gives other people.
I know, but not for other people. I'm asking about you personally.
No,
are there moments reliving some of these moments, like when the guy gave you the plastic knife and the real knife, and you said, "Holy shit, what have I walked into?"
It's funny to me.
Funny.
It's funny because like it was so educational for me. Like my first experience when I got to Oklahoma. So for those who don't know, in the feds, Oklahoma is like central, right? So
center.
Right. So I had to go to Oklahoma. And it's funny how a lot of this stuff comes around full circle, because I had nearly a fight with a guy because I accidentally cut him in line. I did not see this huge line off to the side of me, and then he's following me around the unit. Hey, homie, you ain't see this line right here, homie. You got to be aware of your surroundings, homie. Like, this whole thing is the funniest shit in the world to me.
Like,
because now I'm like, okay, I apologize. Like, what's the end result to this shit? You know what I'm saying? Like,
what do you want?
You ain't know the end result is death.
No question, right? And then to come around full circle, this is one of Greasy, or this is one of Joe's like good friends. Like as an art director inside of prison right now for Concreates, it's crazy because he gave me the rundown on what the etiquette was in prison, even though it started out.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
I have a question after that. Yeah.
So let's talk about etiquette in prison.
Sure.
Because that always blew my mind, and it was the most interesting thing to me.
We talk.
Joe, what is etiquette? Give me an example of etiquette in prison that doesn't exist on the outside.
Oh,
Go get another one, y'all.
Just the simple fact of the
only on the yard.
Excuse me's and the etiquettes of just being a natural human. I always say that all the time. I miss the etiquettes of prison.
Like
I
what?
don't care. I don't care if you're a Nazi lowrider and have swastikas all over your head. When you pass me, you're gonna say, "Excuse me, how are you?" We get out here and supposed to be civilized. You tell someone how you doing to hold the door for them out here, they look like you got shit on your face, and you're being a human being. And I experience more humanity in prison than outside, and it makes me then I pondered one time whoa, well, in all actuality, I've actually met more good people in prison than I've met bad people outside.
No question.
So that is a mind-blowing statement, Joe, right? You recognize that, isn't it? Don't you?
Yes.
That is, and it's completely counterintuitive that you're in a group of hundreds of people who have supposedly committed crimes. Some are nasty crimes. And yet, when they're put together, these people have created this whole society that is kept together and from going completely anarchy by a bunch of rules that are not practiced on the outside, right?
Yes.
Like, for example, I remember sitting in the cafeteria the first time, and there was a salt shaker that I reached for. And the guy who was sitting next to me, I didn't reach over his plate. I didn't bump into him. It was in front of him, and I made sure, and he wanted to kill me for that. And I said, "What?" He goes, "You motherfucker, what happened?" And I go, "What did I do? I can't even imagine in my life I've ever done anything that bad to get this kind of response." He goes, "Don't you ever reach over my food. You don't do that in prison."
No.
He knew I was brand new. And that blew my mind. It blew my mind that when it was time to take a shower the next morning, I took off my clothes by my bed, I put on a towel, and I walked to the shower.
Oh, no.
And 20 people came up to me and told me, and I've been in gyms all over the world.
Right.
And yet you're not allowed to do that in prison. You got to walk into the shower, close the curtain, then get undressed, then get dressed before you leave the shower stall.
And depending on where you at, somebody got to be outside that thing.
Holding you down. So Vincent, I got a question for Vincent. So I heard you earlier speak about this school that you both went to that had privileged children there, privileged kids or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm thinking, as you're saying that you didn't realize certain things in prison when you went, for me, like coming up in the hood and doing what I do, like I had this innate ability to navigate prison with no problem. Like I understood like what was what and this, that, and the third, like I knew what it was. So I'm just trying to understand, like, where was the disconnect for you? Was it how you grew up? Was it like, where was the disconnect that you didn't understand, like these certain nuances in prison?
The disconnect for me was I had been getting money for so long. I built a $300 million drug empire. I had lived in Bel Air. I had, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was doing my thing, you know what I'm saying? And so I got away from that, right? And it's so funny because on the other side of that, going through that prison experience and then getting out, I tried to hold the world to the same etiquette. So I found myself chasing a dude down in the mall that bumped into me and didn't say nothing. I'm like, I'm finna beat up an old man. I had to check myself. I'm like, yo, I'm on paper. I'm going back
some
to jail.
institutionalization.
Yeah. So I had to find balance in that because I had got so far removed from it, from having money and my ego and feeling like I was the shit because I had a couple dollars and then going to prison and being humbled. You know what I'm saying? I can only spend $320 in the Fed, so money don't really mean nothing in a certain regard. And then coming back to the world, it was like, where's the balance in that? Because the world don't understand that this is prison etiquette and it could get your head knocked off.
Right, exactly.
Because I do, then I have a responsibility to make sure I say excuse me when I walk towards folks, or like this was my thing. You talked about the child hall. Right? Did they used to do this? Did they used to, when they get up, knock on the table?
Yes.
Right, and that shit blew my mind. Right, I'm like, yo, why these dudes keep?
I can't believe you just said that. I haven't thought of that in 15 years since I've been out.
Yeah,
how people used to do that.
Yeah,
tell people what that meant.
Yeah, so it really means like I go in peace. So the kitchen is like the most dangerous place in a prison. You know what I'm saying? It's literally
because of the food they serve you.
But yeah, so it really just means I go in peace, because it's a lot of times like, a dude might get up because you reached over his plate and he might not even articulated that he was mad. You know what I'm saying? So he might be going to his unit to go get that sword I was talking about, or that plastic joint. So for him to get up and let you know like everything's good,
everything is cool, and I leave with respect.
Yeah, leave in peace. You know what I mean? And so that used to blow me. I had to ask somebody like, why these dudes keep
I can't believe I haven't thought of that in such a long time. Joe, you were down for how long? How many years?
17 years, 6 months.
17 years. How long did it take you? Vincent's talking about like, going to a mall and bumping into somebody and going into his whole prison mode. How long did it take you, to sort of stop thinking you were in prison?
Well, it's like, see, like we'll get into the story later, but I didn't have an opportunity to get acclimated like everyone else due to the company and the brand that we built. Right. Like 2 days after I came home, I was in Puff Daddy's office. I was doing pie. I was like, it was no choice. Mm-hmm. It was no choice. I didn't have a time to get back reacclimated, honestly.
Okay. So we're gonna. That's a great story that I would love to hear, and we're gonna talk about your life now and the work you're doing. Vincent, you're in prison. You are a stone entrepreneur from the moment you were born. You got the gene, so nothing, doesn't matter where you're going to be. You're thinking of the next scheme, the next business, the next get rich quick opportunity, whatever. You started realizing, I guess, at a certain point that in this confined place of so-called monsters and criminals and whatever, there was actually a lot of very interesting, creative, smart people sort of cooped up among you, right? Mm-hmm. How surprising was that to you?
So this is the thing, right? Like I never got caught doing nothing, right? I turned myself in. I got indicted and ran for almost 3 years. I turned myself in because I had a dream. And in the dream, you can ask my son's mother, when I woke up from this dream, I didn't know exactly why, but I knew I was supposed to go to prison. And I told her, I don't know if I'm about to meet a billionaire that want to live vicariously through me, or if I'm going to gain some knowledge that's going to make me a billionaire. But call a lawyer, you know what I'm saying, and see if we can negotiate my surrender. Wow. And so that's the whole, reason why I was in prison in the first place. And so the feds is like the major leagues for criminals. You know what I'm saying? I learned how to take a company public from a dude that was a former stock exchange agent. He was supposed to audit companies to make sure that they were in compliance with the SEC, and he got caught taking bribes. They were paying him to say that they were if they weren't, right?
Yeah.
And he taught me, he opened my mind and told me, oh, you were just in the arbitrage. And so when I thought he was talking over my head, I'm like, the fuck is arbitrage? But he explained to me, it's like when you buy rice in China at $1 a pound and you sell it to Jordan, for $5 a pound. And that, it set me off. It was just like, well, how many other people have these skill sets and what they did in their crime that could be transferable to something else? And so, I kind of just became a people watcher and started, really paying attention to how people were moving and who's sitting on their bunk reading books and, that sort of thing. Somebody knocking on my door.
This is live TV, folks.
I got it from here.
What's that?
I got it from here. We do this all the time. So that was his Moses moment when he was going through. It's like, oh, okay, there are interesting people in here.
Right. Did you have that moment too?
I had that moment when we founded the company. Yeah. Whenever you're ready to get that, hey, give him his flowers right here. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Come on, man. Give him his flowers right here, man. Listen, don't do him like DMX. Man, great job, man. Hey.
Wait a second. Who are those flowers for and who are they from?
So you all in my business. First, you know what I'm saying? I'm an ad exec, and some people just like what I do. I'm kind of free. Don't let the beard fool you. This is my quarantine beard. No, I'm playing. I just had a birthday recently, and so it's still a lot of stuff coming.
Happy birthday.
Coming to me for that. So yeah.
Happy birthday.
Born, King.
I hope you like the flowers I sent you. All right. So there's a question I always ask, and people are always
talking about this cancer walk.
Pardon me?
I want to talk about this cancer walk because that was a caper.
Oh, we're back to the cancer walk.
No, just remember, I was
pulling teeth to try to get you to talk about it. Now you want to talk about it?
No, I'm just reminding you that that's still something I want to address.
Well, go ahead. Tell us about the cancer walk.
So the cancer walk was really Joe's thing, right? That was his kind of idea, right? And the concept behind it was really like Cancer Awareness Month. Like, how do we really just stand in solidarity, even though
this is in prison?
Yeah, we're in prison.
I gotta entertain myself.
So exactly, that's all. That's really what we were doing. That's what we call bidding. We trying to entertain ourselves, stay busy, so the time can move. So he has this bright idea. We should do a cancer walk. It's Cancer Awareness Month. And so I'm like, all right, this is the beautiful
Cancer Awareness Month.
This is the beautiful thing about our relationship. He has the idea, right? He will spark an idea, and then I'm the guy that's like, okay, these are the moving parts, these are the pieces, this is how we execute, right? So I'm going to these different COs, different case managers and all this stuff, trying to get them to make flyers. We could post them in the units and, get all the whole yard involved. They was moving too slow for me. So I'd have had somebody make some flyers outside of prison and mail them in. So we get booked for that. Like literally get booked for that. You know what I'm saying? Like they sending us to the hole. Again, we talked about working in the psychology department earlier. I'm still cool with my boss to this day. I call her my auntie. You know what I'm saying? She's dope as hell. She came and basically bailed us out of jail inside the jail because they said that I was trying to circumvent the system. You know what I'm saying? That was their excuse for.
All right, so you got your flyers. Let's just let it be said that you're talking about a very contained environment.
Yeah.
It's not hard to get the word out about anything in prison. You tell
we
one.
We gotta do it big. We got to do it big. If you gonna do it, we got to do it.
You're advertising, guys.
Yeah, we're in the ass.
The medium is the message to you guys, obviously.
Yeah.
So your goal was, because it was Cancer Month, Cancer Awareness Month.
It was coming up to it.
What?
It was coming up to it. We was already.
You were planning in advance, of course. And Cancer Awareness Month coming up, and you want to do your part as inmates to advance cancer awareness within the prison or even outside of the prison too.
It spilled outside of the prison, but our goal was just in prison. people got certificates for this. That look good when you're going for the appeal or whatever. You got to people. We had printed up certificates and everything. Like it looked good when you're going for
You
an
are crazy
appeal or something.
motherfuckers. I got to tell you.
Yo,
Yeah.
you too, man. You guys like fucking, yo, man.
All
you
right.
too, man.
So,
Wow.
so what is the walk, the cancer walk? Did you get like people who would sponsor you for each mile? Did you do it like that?
No, we basically just had people come out and either run or walk the track, right? And equaling up. I think we did was 5K.
Yeah,
Three?
5K.
Yeah, we did a 5K joint. So the COs, everybody came out. Like it was people from all sorts of different units, multiple different races. They got the certificate that said who they ran for or who they walked for, and someone who had experience with either losing someone with cancer or someone who was going through having it. Yeah.
And so
Okay.
you got in trouble for that? What?
I got in trouble for making flyers and having them sent in.
We're
They said I was
supposed to have the flyer sent in. Like,
Oh,
that was what they were tripping about. Like, come on now, nobody told y'all to do none of that.
Jessica-
I mean, you do the mail, you check the mail. You can let it in. That's what it is.
Well,
yeah, but Miss Boy wasn't having it.
to
Though.
defend the men.
She already didn't like half the stuff I was doing. You know what I'm saying?
Jessica asks, how many inmates participated?
Way more than half of the yard.
Yeah, it was.
How many is that? How many would you guess, Joe?
Yeah, probably 600.
If it was 12, it was at least 700. If it was 1,200 on the yard, it was at least 700.
So this is
This is
almost
at-
like
Yeah, this in the feds.
like
At what
a
prison again?
Sylvester
In Terminal
Stallone
Island.
movie.
Yeah, I don't get it. So this is a very special prison. While you're doing this walk, you can see the ocean and you can see the pier. So like everybody wants to get to this prison. It's in them. It's really an island. The sense of normalcy. You can see downtown Long Beach here. You can see San Pedro here. It's like no other scenery that you can ever experience in
It's
prison.
right there where the port is. So like we see the tankers, we can see all the cruise ships.
Right.
They come by playing the music, playing basketball, people going on the cruise. We used to have people, I forget who set that up where the girls used to flash us when they come around on the boat.
Summertime. Yeah, it was lit. It was
This was like the best prison yard. If
If
you-
the
probably,
food were
yeah,
a
you can
little
imagine.
better, people would be, paying to get in, right?
Yeah.
Maybe. All right. So people are often surprised. I mean, we have people who come in here and they talk about the violence that they were confronted with early on. And, Victor, Vincent, excuse me, you talk about, somebody pulled you aside and was going to hook you up with, we had a guy who talked, he said there was fighting constantly in the yard, but it wasn't fighting, it was knifing. Was the way he described it. Nobody was punching, everything was with a knife. Did you when you got to prison, number one, lots of people talk about the racial divide that exists, that if you're black guys, you're immediately going to get black guys come to you and tell you where to sit and what your responsibilities are. And the white guys have their guys. Did you have to go through any of that stuff where you were?
prison politics is real. Right?
Prison politics.
It's a real thing. It's super segregated, especially on the West Coast, but in the feds, because it's the whole country, you know what I'm saying? Those politics, spill into other prisons. But again, I like to say we're special, right? Like we had a Persian dude who's technically supposed to fall under the Southsiders. He had a seat in the black TV room because of us.
Yeah,
So
no cap. We was doing all kind of other rules.
Yeah, so when I was on a different prison yard, the Paisa shot caller, the one who ran all the states in Mexico, he told me when I got over there to get with his people, and I get with his people, and people couldn't understand why we used to eat together. You know what I'm saying? But so I didn't have the same experience that most people have. I came into prison and I'm like, I'm not Muslim, right? So I'm not. Being Muslim is considered a gang, you know what I'm saying, in federal prison. I'm not a Crip, I'm not a Blood, I'm just a man. I'm on man time, you know what I mean?
Was that okay? Could that be your identity?
Yeah, if something goes down with the blacks, come get me, you know what I mean? But I'm not in that whole thing, you know what I'm saying? That's not really.
So you didn't feel any terrible pressure that you had to be?
Not me, no.
Not you. What about you, Joe? You were down longer, which
Um,
sometimes means
yeah,
you got to
but,
deal with other stuff.
To say the least, in regards to such, my reputation precedes itself coming from the Crenshaw district. So if I say that to say, if law enforcement isn't going to stop me from taking this money over 27 times aggressively, I don't think, like, when it comes to that, you and I want to have a confrontation when it comes to that, because I'm gonna take it above and beyond. So
Wait a second. All right, so let me see if I understand what you're saying, because you don't come across now as you seem like a very, very nice guy, you know,
No
and
doubt.
you're a creative guy and you're a sweet guy. That's my impression of you. When you came to prison, you're saying your reputation preceded you as a guy not to mess with. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, like yes, and from where I come from, so I'm from the Crenshaw district, and I don't know if you're familiar with the rapper Nipsey Hussle.
Very much so.
Area.
I'm in LA also.
Oh yeah, this is my tribe. I am a tribesman. When we push and it's a different set. I am a part of a said organization. So it's like, this is a whole nother ball game. It's 100 of me when you talking to me.
So you knew people when you got to prison?
Yeah, no doubt. I'm set, like, in my area, when I get to yards and I get to a building, like, you guys understand, like, okay, I have the yard for my organism, for my people. Like, this is your building. Make sure everything is straight. I get it. I am a factor when it comes to that.
Interesting. Okay. Most people, I met a lot of people, you know, it's fun. I'm just thinking back on all the different people I met. And, you know, I was friends with a lot of the wise guys who were there. Mm-hmm. And there were also people who were very funny and who were complete characters. Yeah. And I remember laughing a lot. You know, and it was a miserable place to be, but it was also, we laughed a lot, right? And that surprises people. Do you remember some funny people who you met when you were down?
I'm talking about tons and tons and tons and tons of people. I'm talking about these guys. You should have been on Star Search when Ed McMahon was on. I'm talking about, are you kidding me? These guys are talking about slap knee like hilarious from all. Oh my God. I have to share this with you. We just got a call from one of our dear friends who everybody would say, the whole wide world would say he's a white supremacist. And I know in my whole hearts of hearts that he is the furthest thing from one. And he shared with us that apparently Facebook said that he's a white supremacist. And we laughed about this shit so long. Like, it was like, he called us hysterical. Like, y'all not gonna believe it.
He said they banned me from Facebook. It's our guy though, right? Like, they banned me from Facebook, bro. Like, he actually filmed a video and sent it to us. I'm banned from Facebook, so I need you to contact this profile so we can talk. I can't believe it. You don't think I'm a white supremacist, do you?
But in prison, these guys
are hilarious.
Hilarious, right?
Hilarious.
Yeah.
Because you got to think about it. They laugh at their pain all the time. Like, yeah, I have this one guy. I'll never forget this. We're walking around the track. And he comes out, guys. This shit is so hilarious. And he was like, man, he's coming from the phone. And he caught me coming around. I was like, he had a look on his face. He was like, man. I was like, man, what's wrong with you? He was like, man, I've been trying to call my girl, man. And the phone ain't ringing. She's not answering it. So it was like, man, she probably doing something. So we do another lap. And he goes in and he goes and he comes back and I'm still walking. But he has a little bit excited. Like, I was like, oh, you got through, huh? He was like, yeah, man, I got through. I was like, so what's going on? He was like, oh, no big deal, man. She picked up the phone and she was a little bit out of breath because she ran up the stairs to pick up the.
Oh, that's
and then he stopped, and he was like, he was going back towards the phone. I was like, man, where you going? He said, man, we ain't got no damn stairs. I was like,
man. That's very funny. She wasn't on the phone. So
sport coach took care of that.
Vincent, what would surprise people who've never been down, what would surprise them about prison? That they would never imagine.
I think for me, it was just like the food that we made. You know what I'm saying? I think like people wouldn't really think like we made stuffed peppers. You know what I'm saying? Like we used to like really like cook. Like that was our whole thing, was like, how do we get the ground beef? How do we get the peppers? How do we get
cake
the
and ice cream, man? Come on.
Yeah, these dudes, like I said, was making ice cream. Like I'm talking about like
you were making ice cream.
Listen, ice cream. They would get
literally.
the salt out of the kitchen. They would collect all the used peanut butter jars. These cats was putting Jolly Ranchers. They would get bananas and make chocolate banana joints, like all sorts of different flavors, and then have to go compete with other ice cream makers from different races to get your business. Like,
and they would sell it.
It was yeah.
Two mackerels, man.
Two mackerels. It's amazing. That's my biggest surprise, was confronting mackerel, which when I walked into my housing unit and I smelled this terrible, terrible smell that I hope to God I never smell again. And I said, what is that smell? And they go, it's mackerel. I go, what's mackerel? That's a fish, right? They go, yeah, it's canned mackerel. And I'd never heard of that. Who the hell? I tuna fish in a can. Mackerel? And I go, what the hell is that? And I learned that, a lot of guys who are working out, it's high in protein, and that it was used for barter, instead of money, you would, the guy would cut your hair for 1 Mac, or they'd make your bed for a week for 2 Mac, or whatever it was. And that became the whole thing.
And the things that the shit turned into, right? Because we made cheese graters out of the mackerel cans. We made knives to cut our
vegetable cutter.
We could cut our vegetable cutter.
Yeah, that's the knife.
So it was the ingenuity for me that people, I don't know if they recognize. Even in the county, I would see dudes where there's women in the same complex or building that we in order maxi pads. They would order the maxi pads because they would use them. Because you get them little karate shoes, you know what I'm saying? You get the Bruce Lee.
Bobos, yeah.
So you get the Bruce Lees, they would use the maxi pad as like insoles, like to be some type of cushion, so you're not just walking on this concrete floor.
Right. You can feel all that shit.
So to me, it was always the ingenuity that came.
Ingenuity. And that is essentially somebody, Jane Jones just said,
holy mackerel.
The phrase, don't steal my line here. The phrase holy mackerel was coined because the mackerel smelled to high heaven. You are so right, Jane.
I didn't know
now
that.
I understand. So I want to talk in a minute about what these guys are doing now, because it's totally fascinating and everybody's going to really dig hearing about this. But I just wanted to share something that's going on. In addition to Commissary Club, which is a social app for folks with records that we've built, our initial business was and is 70 Million Jobs, which is an employment platform for people with records. In other words, we help people, who have a record get a job. There is a direct correlation between unemployment and recidivism. If someone doesn't get a job, they will end up returning to jail or prison. And they don't just do it once. It's like on average 4 or 5 times. However, if they do get a job, almost never do they get in trouble again, and they live happily ever after. So like employment is the silver bullet. And that's what we were doing when we first started out. And everybody thought I was nuts. This is not a business and people don't want to hire them and you're never going to make money and all this other kind of shit. And I went through an organization called Y Combinator, which is like where all the top tech companies go through, and it's a big deal. And everyone's looking at me like, this guy, what a schmuck. Nobody's going to buy his product, and it took a long time. But eventually we started figuring things out and we started having a lot of success getting people jobs. It didn't hurt that the unemployment rate, a year and a half ago was very, very low. So companies needed to find alternative sources of hiring. They came to us, and we helped thousands of people get jobs. I'm very, very proud of that. Unfortunately, when the coronavirus hit, all of our people who were working at warehouses and manufacturing and food processing and restaurants and all this stuff, they all got laid off. They were the first to go. And right now it's said that the unemployment rate among people with a criminal record is like 50%, which is like 5 times worse than the population at large. So it's been devastating to folks with records, devastating. Well, I'm really happy to report, if you've been reading the papers, they're talking about how now companies, as the economy is coming back, and as we're sort of seeing light at the end of the coronavirus tunnel, companies are now finding it very challenging to fill positions. People are staying at home enjoying their benefits, or they disappear, whatever the story is. Companies can't hire, and now our phones are ringing off the hook, and we will have the best month we ever had next month. So that's something I really am very, very excited about. I mean, it's good for my business for sure, but it's more importantly, it's good for, our brothers and sisters who came out of prison and all they want to do is get on with their life and earn an honest living and put the past behind. So I wanted to make sure I reported that because I know a lot of people here are very concerned about it. But I want to temper that. I was reading the New York Times right before we went on, and there's a front page banner headline that talks about how the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, just announced that people can stop wearing masks in most situations. They don't have to wear masks outside, and even most situations inside. And I'm sure each state will have to sort of, interpret that and put that into effect. But that's what's happening, as more and more people are receiving vaccinations. So this is obviously for all of us exciting, great news to come back to normal. But unfortunately, again, our brothers and sisters who are in prison, the coronavirus is still alive and well. And there ain't no relief in sight, and people are dying in prison left and right. They're not getting vaccinated, and they live on top of each other. They have terrible medical care. They have terrible food, and it is still a dire situation. And I just want to make sure, I don't personally want to get too excited about how good things are now, because there are so many people that I care about for whom it isn't so good. So listen, before we go to sleep at night, close your eyes, say a prayer for, the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people who are locked up, who should have been let out a year ago when this thing was happening, so that they would have a fighting chance to stay alive. But they're still fighting the fight. So there's good news and there's bad news that remains. I would love to hear about the genesis of Con Creates. You're in prison, you're seeing all these interesting, creative people, and at the same time, you're thinking about what are you going to do when you get out? Vincent, what did you come up with?
So actually, it's really something I would kick to Joe, because he again, right? He's the guy who sparks it. I'm the guy that figures out the process to execute. So I'll let him tell that part of the story.
So rewind. So if everybody is familiar that is been in the criminal justice system, everyone knows that sports, amongst other things, is humongous. Sports, people really do their time around sports. So this one football season, we're watching television, and breaking news. Star running back from the Dallas Cowboys, Joseph Randle, has been arrested for shoplifting. We're like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So this running back, Joseph Randle from the Cowboys, at the time, his son in Dallas, Texas, his son is going through the terrible twos. So while he's shopping with his credit cards, his son goes through one of these wild and out episodes. He tries to calm his son down, puts him over his shoulder, walks out the store to calm him down, but he doesn't purchase the underwear and the bottle of cologne that he went to the mall for, amongst other things. Right. They arrest him for shoplifting. It's all over the news. Everybody is making a big thing. It's just a big old thing. Well, we happen to be incarcerated with one of our dear friends now, who happened to be a founder of a startup called Me Undies. Well, it just made no sense. Why don't we get him to endorse this individual, clean it up? Let's turn the negative into a positive. Me Undies supports, pay this fine, let's get it. Well, this is on a Thursday. You have to think about the backlog. So we have this guy who has a successful mid-range startup company, and he's in prison for unrelated charges, and he's telling his company to take advice from an individual in prison and marketing. So after feedback, we pull the trigger. It's done. We get it done. Sunday morning, we wake up. It's like, hey, bro, let's get it. Adam Schefter's about to break this. We need to go in the TV room. Let's get it. And it's 6:00 in the morning. We see the story. We was like, oh, Me Undies Kofa was like, oh, what's going up? What's going? I'm excited. For me, this is the genesis of my aha, like, oh my goodness, this is the intersection of passion and purpose. So it's not all of these other things. It's this ingenuity in my creative process that's it for me. I was like, oh, and the prison is having our praise and everybody, we high five, and then it's the moment for the men. And while this is taking place, Vincent, who is our authorized cook, because you see he puts the emphasis on it. There's been a day this has gone by. Now it's 2 days. We haven't seen Vincent. Well, Vincent is what we're having is a Moses moment, but we haven't eaten. So we send a APB out for him, and I'll send this part of the story back to Vincent while I grab a beverage.
I wanted to do the same thing. I knew you was coming to the end though. But yeah, so I'm sitting on my rack like I told you before, I turned myself in because I didn't know if I was going to meet a billionaire that wanted to live vicariously through me, or if I was going to learn something that was going to make me a billionaire. But that was the Moses moment. I said, wait a minute. Like, how do I turn this into a business? Because that's it. Like, so I came back to the squad. I think I showed y'all how to take the chip bags and fry a burrito in it. Remember?
I remember I told you I thought you was gonna burn the micro. I was like, why you didn't do this in your unit? You gonna get me in trouble. Like, why are you putting aluminum? How are you gonna put this in the microwave? We're about to fight everybody, so we're having this argument.
Right, because now this is the last microwave because they've been trying to take this shit out. So everybody's scared, like, oh, he about to really blow up our microwave and start a riot in this prison. But anyway, so we successfully, cooked some shit, and I asked him a very specific question, like, when McDonald's does an ad, do you think that they're the ones who do it? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, no, they're not. It's actually a creative agency or an advertising agency that comes with the idea, shoots the shit, and does a thing. And so that's when we started kicking around the idea, like, what would we call it if we had an agency that, was completely staffed by formerly incarcerated or incarcerated individuals? And so we fleshed it out. We started to recruit.
Why? What are the insights of incarcerated or formerly incarcerated people? Why is that valuable? What do they have that that McDonald's ad agency doesn't have?
Sure. So if you think about like a black agency, which shout out to Burrell. I'm not going. Burrell's their black agency. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Specifically, people we know over there, they're doing good work. But think about it. Joe said this in the beginning, right? Like, people do their time based on sports, right? Sports is such a big thing in the feds that this is the only thing that changes 4 o'clock count time. Think about that. That's how big it is. I used to run a ticket in the feds. So I would have guards bringing me stamps. Like, let me get the over, you know what I'm saying? On the Chiefs and, such and such, right? Like sports is such a big thing that those insights is what people forget as a CMO of a big brand, is that we consume your products before we go to prison. We're probably consuming your products while we're in prison, and definitely going to consume your products when we get home. So why wouldn't you want to ask the folks, which is a demographic that you're probably leaving out in the first place?
Okay, so this is, kind of where it's a Venn diagram where your business and sort of what we do as well overlaps, because my feeling was that we could deliver to brands at scale this demographic, which is very, very hard to really isolate and reach, efficiently and economically.
Sure.
Is in fact, sorry?
I think you and I have talked about that, like how Concrete has managed to like kind of productize
right
certain aspects
but
of
why is this population that we serve, why is this a population or a demographic that advertisers should be interested in? I mean, typically people come out of prison.
It's 1/3 of the country.
Right.
Yeah, but right, but they don't. But out of this 1/3, you have people who, you can reach through conventional means already. So I do the same pitch as you do. There's 70 million of them, right. And who is marketing directly to them? And they do buy sneakers, we've already determined, and they buy McDonald's hamburgers, and they go to the movies, and they buy video games, and they buy music, and they download music, and and they buy mobile phones. But this is not just reaching the market. You're trying to access their creativity and their ideas. So my question is what is it about them in prison? Is it because they have plenty of time on their hands?
Well, that's one way to look at it. I mean, there's so many different ways. Another way, and the way I like to, I mean, if you want to say what you were going to say, Joe, that'd be cool, because I like to go get another beer before I.
It's basically like this. Everyone forgets that, especially in a federal prison setting, that not only are these the all-stars of criminality, these are actually the individuals who your favorite rapper is talking about. The real 50 Cents are in the federal system, not the rapper, the one that they mimic their lives about. The real Rick Ross, not the correctional officer. The real one, these are the individuals that they mimic all of the sauce and the swag that everybody is copying is right here. These individuals don't have stylists. They create the style, and everybody forgets. That's what you're mimicking. This is why it's important. This is the culture right here.
Interesting. So this is the height of the street. This is
no doubt
where authenticity lives and breathes.
Everything you see when you see the new Burger King ad, the new Wendy's ad, you'll see that they're using vernacular by the bag. They're using the vernacular in the term that the streets and the culture are using. They totally get it. The problem is we're the bridge now for it not to be corny. Because before, by the time McDonald's gets it, it's lame. Because you're finding Becky, who's bought this to you 3 years, like, hey, they're doing this. No, we were doing that 3 years ago. Right. But we're the pulse of the culture. So as it's happening now, they have a direct line. It's a whole different story now.
And so to piggyback off of that, what I was about to say earlier was, like, people don't realize how much prison influences culture in the first place. Pop culture in general, like the fist bump, that came from prison. The reason why people fist bump is because it's a lot of mercy and staph infection. And you don't know what somebody was just doing in their cell. You don't want to just shake anybody's hand.
Yeah, it goes from 8 to 9:30. So this is,
Somebody has got, okay, thank you.
And so to be able to like be hygienic and still be respectful and give somebody your hand out of respect is super important. That fist bump, you see presidents doing it. Presidents are doing the fist bump. Sagging of your pants, that came from dudes going to prison and losing all the weight and coming home not being able to fit their clothes. That was a whole trend in the 90s and coming into the 2000s. Like that's prison culture, right? That literally spills out and drives culture outside of it. And so just to kind of give a little more insight to what Joe was saying about, these are the guys that are right there on the ground influencing your favorite influencers, move. Like it's these drug dealers didn't have a stylist. You look at some of these rappers, they got a stylist dressing them.
Yeah.
These dudes was fly because they was fly and they had a couple dollars. You know what I'm saying? When you had a couple dollars, we was talking about Audemars and Pateks way before that was a thing in rap culture. Because we like shit. Like I got the money to spend 80,000 on a Vacheron Constantine.
Okay. So, and you're providing access, authentic access before this thing is going to reach your stylist or whatever, and you're going to get it real. How does it work? Let's make believe, I don't know, I don't want to, maybe McDonald's comes to you.
Let's stop saying McDonald's.
Sorry?
Let's pick another brand. What's another brand?
Burger King. They come to you and, they're interested in reaching an urban audience. They want it authentic. What's the process? What do you do?
Yeah, so again, it's research first, right? Like research. I mean, we kind of flip both of them. So it just depends on like who the brand is, what they want. I would use a bigger brand, not necessarily a bigger brand, but let's think about Adidas. Whole George Floyd things jumps off. They're literally going from agency to agency, even though they have an agency, a record, to really see how to stand in solidarity with the Black community, how to message properly, how to not be offensive, how to implement like internal change, what they call systemic change within their own organization. And so we'll take that brief and it has like bullet points, right? These are like the must-haves that this particular brand needs, whether it's Adidas or McDonald's or whatever, Facebook, whoever. These are the must-haves, right? Then we'll take those must-haves and that brief, and then we'll disperse it to our network or be super targeted, right? We talked about productizing. So an insurance company reached out to us, right? And they're like, hey, we want to unveil a new insurance product. Can you guys put together a team of folks that have committed insurance fraud that could help us fraud proof it?
Wow.
So we're like, bet, you know what I'm saying? We have like some of the top guys, and women, who have committed insurance fraud. One guy stole 600 million on an insurance scheme. You know what I'm saying? Like all of these different people, we put together a team of 15 or so people to help them with their thing. And then we get paid, based on that. So it really depends on the problem that we're trying to solve and how we go about.
So you got people who are in prison. Is it in one prison, basically? Is it in
like
many
28 prisons, 29 prisons?
28 prisons. And I'm sure you'll approach appropriate people who may have some domain expertise and, have some thoughts on the matter. And you'll let them know, we have a client who's interested in this. Do you have ideas? This is what they're trying to achieve.
Sometimes
right?
we just want an opinion, right? Sometimes we're just like, are we going to take, like, if this person comes to us and says, hey, we want to give you money. I'll give you an example. We have turned down way more money than we've ever made. That's first and foremost.
Why?
I'll explain. So one group might be a telecommunications company, right? Meaning they own cell phones, right? They're that group of people. And they're like, hey, we really like this idea. We, again, what he said about people like 3 years later or whatever, being late. Some of these people during the George Floyd thing had just watched the documentary, The 13th. Watch The 13th. Now we woke. We want to do something around criminal justice reform, specifically around the number 13th and the 13th Amendment. But said brand, telecommunications company, actually benefits off of prison labor. Like Joe actually worked for that company while he was in prison and couldn't come home and get a job with them. So no, we don't want your money, actually, unless we're going to actually really.
All right, but there are plenty who you'd be thrilled to be working with. You have a system whereby you're getting their best ideas and their creativity, and you're compensating them for that. Are you not?
Sure. And we could, that's one of I think our biggest accomplishments is being able to get the rates of some of the top agencies like Wyden and Kennedy or 72 and Sunny. Joe's day rate, I mean, I'll let you, if you want to tell people what your day rate is, but a guy who successfully robbed a bunch of banks who makes the type of money he makes, or folks sitting behind bars making $125 an hour, coming up with ideas is way better than 12 cents an hour, 17 cents an hour.
But the point is they are being compensated for their good ideas and creativity.
Sure.
So
that's the whole purpose of this whole organization. I think you muted, bro.
Yeah. Joe, what are you saying? You put your mute on, I think.
Oh yeah, it was just they're a part of our network. So when we make money, a part of the profit goes to the network no matter what.
Right. Because you might have been submitting ideas that never made it.
Right.
And so our thing was like, how do we keep
pooling the money?
Yeah, how do we keep people incentivized to still want to be around? Is like we're still gonna pay out, biannually or whatever to make sure that people are still getting money
on an ongoing basis. So what comes next? What's the next step in your plans?
Hey.
Global domination. I mean, we're talking to no, we're literally talking to a bunch of no question. What are we gonna do today, Pinky? Yeah, so our biggest thing was like, how do we expand globally? Just recently, March 1st of this year, I just got off federal probation, which means like I can actually move around the planet. After 5 years of being on paper, I'm free. And our first stop was Australia. We like, okay, let's build one down there. Our advertising partners at 72 and Sunny, they got an office down there. It was going to be a great infrastructure, but they don't accept felons into their country. And so when I talk to immigration and I'm like, I want to come to Australia and build a concreates, they like, why? I'm like, well, why wouldn't we go to the original prison colony?
Yeah, where they also speak English.
Right. And so, that's kind of what I think our next plans are is, how do we go to these other nations? It's not just an American problem. Like Brazil is actually scheduled to have more formerly incarcerated or incarcerated people than America.
Really? I didn't know that.
Interesting.
Yes.
We just moved into Canada, which was not a big deal, but Canada does not have anything like the prison, percentage of incarcerated people or the problems. Listen, this is so fascinating, and it's all about creativity. And you guys are clearly like, you live and breathe creativity wherever you are. That's something that just can't be tamped down. And maybe, being in prison where you have a lot of time to think, maybe that's where it really flourishes, which is kind of interesting. I thought my time in prison it was good that I went. I needed to go, and I did learn a lot about humility. But in any event, we do have to wrap things up now, as it's in California, 6:30 p.m. So if you're leaving the yard right now, you're one of the lucky ones, because there's lots of people who are going to be there for a long time. We have a very, very, very special guest coming, and it's either next week or the week after. And I know that isn't much help, but this individual is the subject of a major New York Times feature that they're writing about him. And so his schedule's a little bit screwy right now, but we will be in touch with you to let you know, as we always do, about the timing of this. But it'll really be cool if it's either next week or the week after. So please do watch your email. Adrian sends out lots of them, and you'll hear more about it. Also, social media will have news of it as well, but it should be off the hook. If you have anybody who you think would be a great guest for the yard, and after having Vincent and Joe, the bar has been set pretty high, I know, but if you know someone, please get a hold of Adrian and let her know why you think either you or somebody else would be great with us. We'd love to hear about it. Adrian's contact info, along with mine and Divine's, will be shown on the screen shortly. Please follow us on Instagram, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on wherever. We're all very social and we pay attention to that, so it's easy to get a hold of us. As far as guests on the yard, the only qualification is that the individual has actually done some time. As I've spoken in the past, we have launched a new mobile-only app of Commissary Club, and it's now available on the App Store if you have an iPhone. An Android version will be coming out over the next couple of weeks. The app is really swell, and it's got a lot of cool stuff on it, and it's really designed to connect people. So we would really love you all to check it out. Let us know what you think, and post and share and everything else. We have a crowdfunding campaign that's going on Republic. If you go to republic.co/commissary.club, you can access it. And we've raised a bunch of money. We're a for-profit venture. We have some great venture capital firms behind us, but we also have a lot of people who are interested in investing $100 or $200 or $50 or whatever. And in a way, we think they're much more important and special to us. But if you'd like to get in on what we're doing and support our work, personally, I think you're going to make a lot of money if you do invest. And if you know anything about me, you know that I've always made my partners a lot of money. So if you're interested, check it out. You can learn more about us from a business point of view. Tell your friends about the yard, please. Share this with whomever you think would be interested. We are humbled and that is absolutely the way we feel, to have a chance to serve the folks that we do. Many of them are nothing short of heroes. They made a mistake, big fucking deal. Who among us hasn't made a mistake, hasn't asked for a second chance? As a society, we have a lot to learn about that. And as a country, we have a lot to learn about that. So I think it behooves us all, for whom this resonates, to help each other, those of us with records, you know, in any way possible, and connect, because we're humans, and that's much more connective tissue than anything else. So I'd love to thank Vincent and Joe for joining us. You guys are absolutely great, and you have a very cool business. And do we have their contact info up, Age? I don't know if that's been up here yet, but oh yes, it is. On Facebook, on Instagram, on their website. Adrian posted a minute or two ago. I know they'd love to hear from you. If you have ideas, thoughts, you have a business that needs marketing and advertising help, these guys are the real deal. I mean, you can just tell how creative they are and how smart they are. But we really appreciate you sharing all this with us. And we wish you continued success. Divine, it's always a pleasure to hang with you, my brother. And I look forward to next week with you. So check us out next week. Everybody stay safe. And thank you so much for joining us. It means the world to us. Have a great night.